Hello and welcome to Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. You are watching a live Kerfefe break. If it's your first time here, this is a new channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if the algorithm got you here some way. I'm very excited. I'm not going to make her wait. Please welcome hilarious comedian and beautiful lady, Chrissie Mayr.
Thanks, guys. Hi, it's good to be here. I brought my Kerfefe. I just brewed it
Good.
using Geek Grind coffee through Nerdrotics.
I did.
So
Is
I'm very
everybody
excited.
doing coffee now? Adam Krigler has a coffee.
Do you need to do Keri coffee? I would drink Keri coffee.
I honestly, I drink like 4 cups of it a day. So
Yeah,
I
me
probably
too.
should.
I drink
Yeah.
it and then I go immediately to sleep. Like just out of habit. Just it's like it's comforting to me. It's warm and I throw a little half and half in there. I've tried the fancy funky different creamers and I feel like straight up half and half has never let me down.
Yeah, I basically have coffee with my milk because I do
Yeah.
a cafe au lait that's like this much milk.
And like honestly, like if you were going to brew a Keri flavored coffee, what would it taste like? What would be the notes? What kind of roast would it be?
I think it would be called milk with coffee. I don't know. It would just be regular. I don't
Yeah.
know a lot about coffee. I just consume a lot
You
of
don't have
it,
a
but
preference of like dark roast over a light roast?
I used to pick the dark roast and then because I thought there was more caffeine, but then someone told me there's actually more caffeine in the medium roast.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
So wait,
so
is your husband Colombian? Because you could do a Colombian brew if that were the case.
he's Mexican. I could do a Mexican brew.
Mexican, yes. Ariba
But
blend.
although everyone thinks he's native and he's not sure.
Like
He's
an
never
Indian?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
never done a one of those
23andMe. DNA
23andMe.
snatching
Mm-mm.
things. Yeah.
So Clifton Duncan is also joining us. He's running a little late, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet.
We have met. He's done my podcast. He's
Oh,
great. He's
oh,
so
sweet.
he's
Never
playing hard
mind.
in the DMs. He was playing hard to get, like we didn't know each other. It's so
Oh.
funny. I'm gonna wait till he gets here to tell a funny story involving him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll wait till he gets here. But before he gets here, we were talking about gym motivation,
Oh.
and it's really crazy how many people go, "Wow, I see all your gym posts," and I was like, wow, I literally haven't been to the gym in a month because I was on the road. It sounds so cool, doesn't it? It's like I did a few shows. I'll just say I was on the road the whole month of March. It's like I was back. I just didn't go. So I was, I put a
But
lot of
no,
videos out in
you
February,
are
but now
probably the busiest person I know. Every time
I
I
don't
talk to you.
see you say that, and then today I just straight up didn't get out of bed till 11:45. Like I was in bed working, but I woke up, but I just didn't leave the bed, which is so embarrassing. Like I have to not get to the point where I'm like yelling at myself, like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Chrissy? What are you doing still laying down? Like, what are you depressed? What's going on? I have to like mom myself.
Yeah. Well, you're also working. You do late nights too, because you do morning streams and sometimes night streams and yeah. Plus shows. Anyway, I admire how much
Anyway.
you work. So the
Oh,
gym, I
yes,
do
the gym.
admire your posts. I think gym posts are great. They inspire me. And so I told you when I saw you last week, I was like, I'm going to get back to the gym. And then today, there's this trainer at my gym, this very handsome guy. He's
Okay.
like 6'8", black guy.
Wow, tall.
He's always working people out. And the funny thing is I've seen him there for like a year whenever I do go. And he's looked at me before and I was like, is he gonna say something to me? Like, when somebody keeps looking at you, I was like, oh, maybe he likes me. No, but he came over today
Ooh.
finally and he was like, hey, are you Keri Smith? And I'm like, yes. That's
Ah! You
weird.
got recognized at the gym? That's huge.
Yeah, but this is what he said. He was like, I love you on Friday Night Tights and Chrissie Mayr. He was like, I love Chrissy. He was so, yes, what a
So there's
small
a hot,
world.
jacked, tall black man in Texas who's a fan of me.
Yes.
Noted.
So I always think those small world moments are so funny because I'm like, how
Wow.
big is it's not that big. Like the
I
first
am
time.
also wondering how big, but in
Oh.
a different way. That
Well,
was
he's
the
very
first
tall.
question. Okay, very tall. So what is this fandom gonna get you, Keri? Is he gonna work you out? Is he gonna give you a free water bottle? What's gonna happen?
Yeah, I have my housemate is a trainer, so hold on one second.
Okay.
There's someone walking their dog outside, and these little dogs are not happy about it.
Oh no.
Yeah, but the first time somebody recognized me, I think my old channel, we only had like 5,000 subscribers or something. And this guy, I was in a random burger joint, and this guy followed me outside and was like, ma'am, I thought he was going to scold me for not wearing a mask. And then he was like, oh, it was a small world moment. I'm like, how random is that? It just blows my mind. But yeah, this
You
was another
forget
one.
that that anybody listens to anything you do. It's so easy to because you're just like in here being like,
Yes.
I gotta do taxes. I have to get rid of this fupa. You forget that people like what you're doing.
Yeah. Hey, Chrissie, can I leave you
Yeah,
for 2
go
seconds
deal with the
to get this
dogs.
dog?
Yes,
Okay, I'll
I'll
be right back.
vamp. I will vamp.
Vamp.
Vamp, vamp, vamp. I wonder what kind of gym this is. I forgot to ask Keri, but I'm guessing based on Keri's overall vibe that this was probably this was not an Equinox, like a stuck up overpriced gym. This is probably like a Planet Fitness that I think she goes to, or possibly a New York Sports Club. That's what I'm guessing that Keri Smith goes to. Let's see if I'm right. Was it Planet Fitness or New York Sports Club? Wait, it's in Texas. It's not New York Sports Club.
No, it's 24-hour fitness.
Okay, I was wrong. I was guessing what kind of gym.
They have locations everywhere. This is Teddy.
Hello, Teddy. Oh my God, he's a little pumpkin.
Yeah, he's quite the alpha, though. He has to bark at everyone. So
now he just looks like a stuffed animal.
Yeah, he makes me think of the bear, the Snuggle Bear. Remember the commercials?
Yes.
Yes.
He does look like a little bear. Oh, hi. Does he? I notice sometimes like the dog, mostly Waffles, likes to come in while I'm podcasting and just like chill and listen. And I'm like, is Waffles a fan? You know?
He's just happy to be around human voice, probably. My
It's probably
dad,
the voices. He probably doesn't care what the hell I'm saying.
my dad he volunteers at an animal shelter, and his job there, I didn't know they do this, but his job there is to go in and read books to the dogs. So they have volunteers just so they hear that human voice for like an hour.
Oh
And
my God.
isn't that
What do they
amazing?
read to them?
He reads children's books, which I'm like, they don't know what you're saying. Why don't you just read something you want to read?
You know what? I've discovered the real purpose, where the direction that drag queen story hour should go, since there's so much backlash, like, reading for kindergartners. Have the drag queens read for dogs. Problem solved. They get to read to beings, and the dogs get to be talked to.
Yes.
That way that they're not going to convince the dogs to be trans, because dogs are smarter than that.
Dogs can tell what your biological sex is. There have been studies. They can
dogs
tell.
are based.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty
based. Getting by them. Yeah.
Here's the thing about the drag queen story hours that I don't buy and I don't understand is when they defend doing them, they're always like, well, we're doing them because kids need to learn about diversity and that kids need to learn that, drag queens exist. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, why aren't we doing firemen's story hours and mailman story hours? And there's all kinds of, it could be endless.
When I was little, I wanted to be a gymnast and a veterinarian. I was like, I got time for both.
Yeah.
I love this comment in the chat. Dogs want to be groomed. From Tara T.
Where's that? Oh, there we go.
It's from Tara. A couple people were circling around the joke, but Tara nailed it. Dogs actually want to be groomed.
Well, hey, can we talk about that? I know Clifton's not here yet, but that's one of the things I want to talk about today is what this topic of grooming that's in the news everywhere. Have you seen this dust up? There's like a controversy about whether or not we should be using that word.
It is interesting. What I've been noticing more so this morning when I was trying not to face the day, and I was looking at like kind of more liberal Twitter, which I don't often make a point to do, and I've realized now that I will. It's weird how they're kind of it seems like they're turning it around because it's so easy to see like Poso's tweets and the more conservative sort of influencer tweets. James Lindsay, I see his stuff a lot. And they're basically just calling out anybody who supports these movements or these bills as groomers, like, which I kind of like. I like that they're calling it out. If you're if you're kind of against teachers going in and teaching like 4 and 5-year-olds about all the different genders and sexualities, like that is kind of grooming, because it's like you're not letting them find that on their own through growing up or through talking to their family. It's like you're putting those ideas into like the very sponge like brains of kids. But I've started to see on like liberal Twitter, like it's weird. I feel like they're doing a lot of digging. Like, these are all the Republican GOP people that have been, that are groomers, that have been convicted of molesting somebody, that have been accused of something. Oh, if anybody on the GOP side is anti-groomer, well, they're the one that's the groomer. Like, I've seen a lot of talk about just literally flipping it around and saying, if you're anti-groomer, you're the groomer. And I'm like, this is a lot of mental gymnastics happening.
I haven't seen that. I should
It's like
check
with
in
the
there.
left. I've noticed the left do this a lot. And obviously probably the people at the top do it, and then it trickles down to like the peasants. But just basically whatever you're being accused of, flip it around and then accuse the other side of it.
Yeah. It's that Darvo thing. It's like to deny and reverse victim order.
But now there's a conversation. You're saying that you can't even say the word groomer.
Yeah. So Pirate, can you put up everybody say thank you to Pirate today.
Yar, matey.
Can you put up the that
show us your
tweet?
peg leg? I want to see that guy's peg leg from the gym. That's what I want to see.
This is a tweet from Claire Lehman. Do you know who she is?
Claire Lemon. No relation to Don Lemon?
No relation to Don Lemon. So Claire's the founder of Colette, and Colette is known as, it became a real beacon for free speech and I guess what you would call like wrong thinker opinions, where everybody that was questioning the woke ideology narrative, including a lot of liberals were writing for Colette, and it was my go-to source for a few years. But Claire is sort of since then, surprisingly, been very pro lockdown and pro authoritarian measures when it comes to the COOF. So that's the first, I guess it would say that's an outlier in terms of her opinions, where she disagrees with a lot of people in the wrong thinker world. And then she's basically, I'm going to read this for anyone who's just listening. She says, "I'm no fan of gender ideology being taught to school children. My publishing record at Colette reflects that, but neither am I a fan of suspending the presumption of innocence on grooming for political expediency. When the devil turns on you, where will you hide?" And so the argument that she's making, and I'm seeing other, I guess, centrists making, is they're sort of saying that the right is using the word groomer in the same way that the left uses words like racist or Nazi, and kind of
see that point,
expanding the meaning of it. And then the argument there, I think, is if you expand the meaning of it, then you actually lessen the effect that word has. Like they're saying we're misusing the word, and it's not a good thing to do that.
This is a lot to say. Groomer has only been, I feel like, in the public slang for what feels like a couple of weeks, whereas I feel like for years people have been calling other people like racist, white supremacist, white nationalist. For years I feel like people have been using that as an insult just to quiet somebody. Whereas I don't know. I can understand the point, but I just think there's so much more at stake here.
I'm gonna.
I'd rather be called a racist than a groomer. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's also why they're upset. I do want to interrupt you just to say hello to Mr. Clifton Duncan, who just joined us.
Speaking of racists.
Hello, Clifton. I looked down. I didn't realize you were wearing a hat at first. I thought you were trying out a new wig. I'm not even kidding. Like, I just thought you had this big coif. of hair going on, and I was like, oh no, are we gonna acknowledge the new wig? But thank God it's a hat.
Well, wait, are you saying you would judge me if I were
I
trying on
was
a wig?
about to be like, okay, you know who you looked like? The guy from No Doubt. I can't remember his name.
So
With what I thought was the wig, but it's not.
then I
I've
should
dug
maybe
myself
take
into
this
a
off.
hole. Tony from No Doubt is who I thought you looked like.
Okay.
Can I ask?
No, you're fine. You're fine. Keep it on. Don't listen
Are
to me.
you, Clifton? There were people in the chat before you got here who were praising your voice even before you arrived, and I have to say, your voice sounds extra sultry today. Can I say that?
I suppose you can. Maybe it's because I'm wearing. I got some new headphones. Trying out little, slightly updated setup. So,
I'm moist. I don't know about you, Keri.
oh, do men and wigs make you moist, Chrissy?
No, just you. Just no.
I got my mask on me. I should put that on too. And
No.
man.
I was cleaning out some old like boxes of shit, and I found like an early pandemic mask, and I was like, ugh. Part of me was like, throw it away, and then I was like, do I want to save this to, just for lore, just for stories to tell kids in a few years? Not my kids, somebody's kids. I don't know.
Somebody's grandkids have it
Yeah.
in one of those keepsake boxes. Or actually, do people still do the
A time capsule?
capsules? That's what would go in.
I found a time capsule the other day, but it was just old gym clothes that I didn't realize were in the backseat of my car. I was like, this is not, I think, what people mean when they say time capsule.
Clifton, I'm going to turn up your microphone just a little bit.
Oh my God, Clifton, I can see Keri in your behind you. It's like Inception.
yeah, it's
on the screen behind you.
Oh.
Trying to sort of modernize my setup a little bit, get a little fancy.
Well, it sounds.
I couldn't fit you in there. Oh, there we go. Now we can see. Now we can see Chrissy.
Yes. Yeah. If it's creeping you out to see yourself, Keri, just leave.
I'll leave you up there.
I'll be here. I can check the cleavage out.
So we were.
I don't know.
Oh, no,
Oh, go ahead.
moist.
Yeah. Look at yourself.
We were talking about something in the news, but before we do that, get back to that. Chrissy had a story she wanted to share.
Oh
about
my
you.
God. It was just so funny. I don't know. And people never refer to me as this. So I laugh so hard because both Clifton and Elijah Schaefer referred to me as nigga with an A. Like it's like in my DMs, in my Twitter DMs, like late yesterday morning. I laughed so hard because I was like, am I getting cooler? Like people are calling me N-word with an A. See, I don't even feel comfortable saying it. I was just like, ooh.
I thought you guys.
Elijah was like
know each other.
Elijah was like N words. Stop posting fake pornos. Apparently, somebody deep faked my face on a porno. I still haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
And
now
then
I'm moist. Okay.
Clifton said, "Edward, go to bed." You're replying to everybody, which I was. I was on kind of like a late night Twitter bender.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Speaking of photoshopping your face into a porn, I'm going to share an anecdote. When
Where's this going?
So I got to hang out with Chrissy recently. She had a content house in the Poconos.
Clifton, you have to come to the next one.
It was a ton of fun.
It was lit.
I think I saw pictures. Yeah.
There were comedians there. There were some, I guess you would say, porn stars, right? And different streamers.
Yeah, we'll call them entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs.
And
but
some
beautiful ladies. And we were at a roller skating rink, and I loved it. There were it was one of those old school roller skating rinks, the kind from the 70s, it's like they've never changed the carpet. It looks the same. And there were young people hanging out, and that just made me feel good because I felt like young people don't get to do all the things we used to do, like go to the skating rink, but they did in that little town. They were there. And
yeah, what was this? Was it Stroudsburg?
Something like that.
Tannersville, somewhere out there.
And at the end, when we were getting ready to leave, like, I guess they had made an announcement that there were some people here filming, and they saw us like skating around, and Chrissy, you had a
Well, I said to the lady,
selfie
because I said
stick.
to Linda was great. We all get in. I'm like, Linda, there's about 12, 15 of us. She's like, I don't care. Get in. Like, she didn't even head count us. She just stamped our hands. I was like, I fucking love these small town values. And she's like, well, I'll make an announcement that you guys are going to be videotaping. I was like, hold the phone, Linda. You can't just say, like, I don't want people to think we're creeps. You know, you just say, we're here to videotape ourselves roller skating. And if you don't want to be in the background, like, sashay away. And so thank
Skate
God we made
away.
that distinction. But sure enough, knowing kids, like, they love to get in the frame. They love to zoom by. They were like weaving in and out. And I was like, oh yeah, that's how I was when I was little.
Yeah. So after, when we were leaving, they were kicking us out when they were closing. And I was sitting there and I had already taken my skates off and Chrissie was skating by to go return hers. And I saw this little play in front of me that unfolded with these young guys, maybe 16 or something. They were asking her, they were like, you know, what's your show called? And where are you at? And she said, how old are you?
I said, yeah. They were like, wait, you were streaming? Where are you streaming to? YouTube. What's your name? And then I took a very long retarded pause. I was like, how old are you? And then they laughed. They elbowed each other and said, I was right. And I was like, I almost wanted to be like, right about what? And then I returned my skates. And then an employee came up. She was like, this blonde gal, had to be in her 20s. Oh, what's your YouTube name? And I thought, oh, this woman is a fan or she wants to see what we were doing here. Turns out that woman was a plant. She was a spy sent by the children. They convinced the employee to ask me what my name was. So they ended up figuring it out anyway.
Yeah, I got to see them, but I was waiting in the lobby at that point. I didn't know they had gone up to the employee, but the employee comes out and I see these young guys following her and they're like, how do you spell it? And then I watched them go out into the parking lot on their phones and they're looking up Chrissie Mayr. And then when they found you, they all jumped in the air like, yeah.
Oh my God, that's really precious. And it's not like anything on my YouTube is not something a 15 or 16-year-old kid should watch. It's just like, I don't know. I'll interview sometimes, like, I'm friends with OnlyFans girls and like adult film stars. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to be responsible for a kid. You know, it's already so easy to find your way and maybe I'm just being dumb and I don't realize like they're all looking at this stuff anyway. I just like, part of me wanted to like shelter them a little bit. I don't know, because when I talk and do things, I'm not doing it for the 16-year-old audience.
Right. I love that you wanted to shelter them. And I also love just seeing like teenage boys be excited about like finding this taboo comedian anyway.
They sleuthed it out. Yeah. Maybe they thought that I was a porn star, where if that's the case, I don't really know how to feel. Like if it was an adult man, I'd be like, ooh.
I was wondering, because there were a lot of beautiful ladies on the skating rink, and I was like, I wonder if they think they're like, oh, I've cracked the code. This is something, you know, I'm not supposed to be seeing. But anyway, it was funny.
Oh, that would be the weirdest pickup line in the world. Like, yo, what up, shorty? You do pornos?
And like we were very tame and we were very wholesome while we were there. We're just like skating around. Yeah,
that was the most fun. It just like takes you back to
it really did. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get an icy drink because other people are drinking them, and where else am I gonna do this?
Thank you, Jeremy Turner. He says, he gives us a super chat and says, love you three, Chrissie and Clifton. Thanks for supporting Keri New Channel. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. I'm very excited to talk to both of you. And I know we're going to talk about some annoying things, but then we're going to talk about good news. Clifton, I hope you brought your good news today.
You can keep on hoping, Keri.
Oh.
Well, we'll start with one of the topics we were discussing before you got here. So I don't know if you've seen this, Clifton, but there's been this dust up about the use of the word groomer. And just to recap, we read a tweet from Clara Lehman who was saying that
my favorite person.
Is that sarcasm?
Yes.
She says, I'm no fan of gender ideology being taught to school children. My publishing record at Colette reflects that, but neither am I a fan of suspending this presumption of innocence on grooming for political expediency. When the devil turns on you, where will you hide? And so I understand what she's trying to say. She's saying, I think, that the right is doing with the word groomer what the left has done with the word racist or Nazi, right? And that I guess the argument there is that you're taking some of the meaning out of the word, you're abusing the word. And I've been thinking a lot about how I feel about continuing to use that word. And I think it's appropriate, but I wanted to hear what you guys thought about it.
Well, the playwright C.J. Hopkins has this term called
Here we go.
called,
You sound so good off the bat.
called a thought terminating cliche. And I think in terms of a slur used to short circuit or shut down an argument, I think there is some legitimacy there to that claim. On the other hand, I've been thinking about this, and I'm like, I thought about my own days in school, and there was never any point where I was privy to or learned about or was talked to about any of my teachers' personal lives, let alone their sexual predilections. So the idea that there are people who are upset that others are upset about talking to children about these kinds of things is a little weird to me. And I guess the point that I'm getting to is I'm thinking out loud. I know, Tiger. I know it's very difficult. Is that it's, while I understand the point that people like Claire are making, and she isn't the only person that's made this point. At the same time, it's very difficult to escape accusations of grooming when you seem so adamant about trying to teach children about these kinds of subjects. I remember when I was a kid, 9, 10 years old, girls were gross. you didn't want to do.
We still are.
Well, in some ways, but sometimes they're gross in the right kind of way. But I'm like, why do you feel this need to introduce these kinds of topics to kids, especially at a point in their lives where they don't really know anything, and they're so impressionable and they're so naive. It's just very strange. But I do think there is a point to be made in saying, let's not abuse this term and overuse this term just because we feel like, I'll say you feel like the collective you, I know collective is a bad word, can say, we got you. This is something that, you've been calling us racist, you've been calling us Nazi, you've been calling us bigots, so now we're going to call you a groomer, because I think it does begin to overshadow the importance of the issue. I think when I came in, Chrissie, was it you talking about how that the stakes are too large? It's such an important issue that I guess we can't afford to cheapen it by using these terms, these blanket terms, such as groomer. But it's tough. It's difficult. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a milquetoast fence sitter. But so I think there's legitimacy to what Claire is saying. But I also think it's just weird to be so adamant about talking about your sex life with kids, or introducing them to these like sexual topics.
I think ultimately the answer is going to be in just asking more questions. Like, while she might make a decent point there, and sure, you don't want to just name call somebody instead of getting into the issues. Be like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you actually think we should be fighting for? Do you actually think that these teachers on TikTok have the right? Like, try to get them down to specifics. And it's like, and if you find that person is still in their corner, well, then you can be like, yeah, well, you sound a little groomer adjacent, like what, I think it always helps to just keep asking questions. Like, what precisely do you think these teachers have the right to do?
Yeah.
And it's also kind of weird because I'm thinking to myself, if you are, I read a lot of accounts of, say, like young gay men who they knew when they were little that they were different from the other boys, for instance. I want for those kids to have some sort of peer, some sort of ally, someone they can talk to, that they can relate to. At the same time, is the school, is the classroom the appropriate place for those kinds of things to be happening? Does that kind of violate some weird boundary between student and teacher? Because I remember, when I was in school, it was just your teacher was this person that you saw just in this one specific span of your life, and they didn't, no one ever thought about their personal lives, and they didn't even have a personal life outside of school as far as we were concerned. So it's weird. I think it's just another one of those issues where it's complicated and it can't be reduced to some sort of weird binary. It's just it's a tough thing at the same time. I mean, I just don't. The overall, the issue of sexualizing children is just
Yeah.
I'm not about that. I think I should make that clear. I don't know why I need to make that clear, but
yeah.
And
it sucks that you have to even say that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wonder if we'd be dealing with all these problems if social media did not exist. And you think about, we're not going to say all teachers are blue-haired fucking maniacs with 5 piercings in their head, but a lot of it comes from this place like they need this validation. They're unhappy with themselves, so they go on TikTok and they go, look how progressive I'm being, look how I'm opening the eyes of these students. I'm the one who's teaching them the right way, not their stupid conservative Republican boring parents or whatever. So it's like it uniquely fills this need in a certain type of teacher, right? They need the validation. They feel possibly powerless in their own life, so they want to feel that they have power and influence over others. And at the same time, it's like so performative. It's like done for likes too.
Yes.
So it's so there's so much going on psychologically.
Yeah, it's also the way in which it came into the schools, into the elementary schools. And to be clear, all of this is, I think, people started talking about it. It became a big topic about this word groomer with the Florida bill, which they're calling, the leftists calling the Don't Say Gay bill, but which just says, from kindergarten through 3rd grade, teachers should not be engaging in instruction about gender identity or sexual orientation. That's instruction. And the way in which, though, I think this assumption that teachers have that this is important and we need to do this in the classroom, to your point, Clifton, you're like, I don't know if the classroom is where it should be happening. I think they brought it in there by they hid it in all this anti-bullying kind of curriculum, in this diversity curriculum, and sort of saying this has to be in schools. We have to teach about this. This is a kind of bullying. And once they've gotten us to accept that, then it's like, then they just include it because they're like, this is an identity and kids need to know about it. My issue with it is that they want to be able to instruct kindergartners. So we're talking what, 5-year-olds? Up to up to 3rd grade, so up to 8-year-olds. They want to be able to talk to them about sexual orientation when these kids haven't even had sex ed. They don't even have they haven't had biology class yet. Yeah. It's completely inappropriate for that age group, and so that's why I lean towards. I think I'm going to continue to use the word because I think it is a kind of grooming, legitimately. It's not, I agree, it's not the same thing. And I realize it. I realize what she's saying is we're taking some of the sting out of that word, because historically we've used it to talk about the ways in which individual pedophiles will target a child and groom a child. But that word also means targeting a child and pushing an ideology on them.
You're kind of like preaching them for someone else. You're doing the work that someone else would have to do. Like you're making it so that they're, they've made a dent in the grooming process. They've made it like the more that it's talked about, the less weird it becomes each time. The more, anytime you have a secret that you keep from your parents, it's like, okay,
yes.
Get used to it. Oh, here's a room that you can change your clothes when you get to school. It's like, ugh. And you can just change back and go home. Like anytime you normalize secrecy or keeping stuff from your parents, a private conversation, a private dialogue going on with your teacher, it just makes other kinds of secrets okay to keep, and it makes it okay for kids to not be honest with their parents.
I think something else that you brought up, Keri, is what frustrates me about a lot of these issues, especially when they become political, is that they often come attached to a crass moral component, where you mentioned anti-bullying, or inclusivity, diversity, anti-racism, so on and so forth. There's this idea that immediately, once the conversation becomes framed as well, we're just trying to do what's best for these marginalized and vulnerable kids. It makes it very easy for anybody who says, "Wait a minute, this might be kind of weird," to say, "Oh, wait a minute, do you mean that you support the abuse and exploitation? No, the abuse and bullying of trans kids, or if there is such a thing, and or gay kids or queer kids or whatever." And again, it's these thought-terminating cliches where you're not allowed to actually talk about the complexities of the issue, because it's either you're good or because you support this issue, or you're evil because you have criticisms of it. I think there are. I mean, it's all. I don't want to say both sides, because it's always polygonal. But everyone has some sort of version of how they do this. And I think politics for a lot of people is a substitute for, it's like moral blood sports. Who's a better person? Who is more virtuous? And, it always obfuscates the issue, and it never becomes what it's really about. Everyone, it's competing moral values in this sense, where everyone is looking out for the well-being of children in their own minds. And I think maybe if more people kept that in mind, we might get somewhere. We wouldn't get stuck on these ideas of, should we be using Groomer or not? Because to me, that seems, I won't say it's beside the point, but it doesn't seem like that should be the overarching issue that we should be focusing on.
Yeah, we're worried about offending other adults, when really it's like, look who we're trying to actually protect here.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that the side, that the people that want teachers to be able to engage in instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity, do you think that they're trying to protect kids? How? Because I think some of them are. They think they are, but I don't know if they all believe that.
It's tough. I think, I don't know if a lot of us have seen those stories. I mean, I know I have, of people who, for instance, sign up for, say, drag queen story hour at the library, and it turns out that they're actually sex offenders. So I think there are, again, it's a complicated thing, because there are a lot of people who they just are blindly following and saying, they identify themselves as good people, and they think that they're helping. But I think at the same time, there is also, there's going to be a contingent of people who are attracted to these kinds of issues, or even drawn to these kinds of jobs and these kinds of roles, who do have these kinds of predilections. And we have to be able to talk about that, and we can't pretend like that is not an issue.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we can't pretend certain types of people that are drawn to law enforcement are not a little bit, like, they could be a little bit rageaholic-y. Not all of them, but it's like, if you are just like, there is a percentage of teachers that are attracted to that position, and a percentage of, I don't know, lifeguards, gymnastics coaches, like anybody, there's going to be a small percentage that are attracted to it for specific reasons.
Right.
Yes, because it gives predators access. It's like that famous, speaking of gym coaches, that Olympics doctor, the guy that was abusing all those female gymnasts, like, right out in the open for so long. And I mean, I think people who are predators are drawn to places where they can find prey. And you're right. For some reason, it seems like it's culturally okay to talk about that when it comes to police officers. Like, okay, yeah, there are some people who are aggro and who want to get out their aggression on people, and they might be drawn to that field because it gives them control over people. We're allowed to talk about that, but we're not allowed, for some reason, to talk about, the bathroom issue, for example. Predators will take advantage of that. Absolutely, they'll take advantage of that to go in the ladies' restroom. Nobody's worried about Blair White in the ladies' room. They're worried about the shark, the wolf who comes in, who's taking advantage of these new cultural norms.
And then it's, how you're able to suss out the sharks from the normal people. I mean, that's the issue, or that's an issue. I doubt that the most skilled predators are out there just where, they're not waving signs saying, "Hey, I like to smash kids."
Be like, are you even on hormones? Oh yeah, I got them. I mean, I got a prescription. I gotta go fill it. It's in my purse. I'll get to it eventually. Yeah. Ugh.
But then of course, people could clip this conversation and say that we are equating sexual minorities with predation. And again, it goes back to this cheap, crass reductionism, or maybe essentialism. Of these arguments or these discussions, and no, we're not talking about that. But it does. But I mean, Chrissie, you said it's a shame you even have to make these sort of qualifications, but it doesn't matter to the people that hate us.
Right, because they want to clip and make us look bad. Go ahead, clip away. I need the promotion. I got gigs coming up. I got gigs.
I like your attitude. This is I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is a definition that's going around that I saw. James Lindsay was putting this one out. Stephen Landau puts this in the chat. He says, groomer is someone who builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them.
Damn. I mean, that's a lot of people when you think of it that way. Just think about how many single, divorced parents, one divorced parent household, how many single, the mom or the dad will really manipulate the kids into hating the other parent.
Yes.
And teachers, if you were to say, okay, conservatives, Republicans, whatever, just non-leftists, you're in charge of sex ed, just about everyone would be like, all right, well, when you start having questions, go talk to your parents about it. And if your parents are abusive and you truly have nobody, all right, well, then come see me, I guess, or I'll find someone who knows more than I do. And if you ask a leftist, they'd be like, yeah, I was waiting for this day. Let's get all these books out. Let's play these videos. It's like you are impressing upon them your vision for what their sexuality should be.
What I also think, it makes me think about the sort of tangential but sort of not, is, this idea of the separation of church and state. But the problem is, what if, quote unquote, progressivism? Those of you who know me know that I rarely use the term progressive without quotation marks nowadays. I think to be progressive nowadays is actually to be anti-progressive at this point. But, what if progressivism is your religion? It just hasn't been identified yet. And people get mad when you compare this kind of ideology to a religion. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, does it have some sort of text or whatever?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, the People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn might be one, or the Communist Manifesto might be another one. It's a growing list, but it just makes me think. Some ideologies are not allowed in these classrooms, but then some ideologies are. We just don't call them religions. I wonder if we might maybe if there was a reframing of saying, okay, well, we don't want these ideologies, in our school, but what about your particular ideology? No, we don't want we don't want this. They say we don't want prayer in schools. We don't want Christian indoctrination. We don't want to be teaching creationism. But then at the same time, well, what about this other? What about this gender ideology? What about anti-racism? They're going full bore with that, but they don't recognize it as a religion or a cult even.
Yes,
it's very interesting.
I got to interview this guy this week, Mark Owsley, and he's doing a push to defund DEI. So his strategy in terms of speaking of language, they have the defund the police movement. He's taking that word and saying defund DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the things we were talking about is how they like to deny that they're pushing this belief system in the schools by saying, well, the theory isn't there. And I was thinking about this. What they're doing is actually worse than if they were to sit down with kindergartners and say, this is critical race theory. Let us explain it. Or this is queer theory. We're going to explain it. They're not doing that. That's true. They're not sitting down and saying, this is the theory. Let me teach you the theory. What they're doing is worse. They're taking the conclusions that come from the theory and they're doing praxis, which is implementing those things in the classroom. So they're not even being transparent enough to tell these third graders, what have you, like, this is queer theory. This is a belief system. We believe that racism is in everything, that the best way to look at the world is as this inherently oppressive place and this competition for power between identity groups. And here's all these oppressed groups and here's the non-oppressed. They're not sitting down and explaining it that way. No. They're just bringing the conclusions into the classroom, which is less transparent, and they're teaching it as fact. And I think you're right. If we could get the left somehow to start to see how analogous this is with teaching creationism or bringing religion, into the classroom, I think they might be able to hear us better if we could make that argument, but I don't know.
It seems like it's going to be like a rush to who can create the most content about this when it comes to like a child's whatever sexual orientation or I don't know. If I'm going to blanket this whole thing, I'll call it like sex ed for kids. If you don't want the right or non-leftists to be like, oh, we're just going to shut it down. Meanwhile, the left is creating all the content, videos on YouTube, websites where maybe kids who are confused and they're left alone with their tablets will end up finding it. So, well, now they've kind of cornered the market on content. Like I found this website, amaze.org. They also have a Twitter account. And I was just looking at, their whole thing is more info, less weird. Amaze takes the awkward out of sex ed. Real info and fun animated videos that gives you all the answers you actually want to know about sex, your body, and relationships. And I look at this site and I'm just like, oh, wow. What is the non-leftist answer to this? Where is the non-leftist sort of child-friendly content about this? Are we just going to be like, leave me out of it. Oh, you're a groomer. Goodbye. Meanwhile, these people are making all the strides in putting out the content.
That's a great question because I don't know. You're right. Conservatives they're not really saying like, we've got this other thing instead. Like for a while I was thinking we need something that takes the place of this curriculum in the classroom. I think it's too much to ask that we are telling schools like they would have to remove all of their bullying curriculum. So we need to have some other type of bullying curriculum. And same thing when it comes to, I think, diversity, inclusion, not equity, but diversity, inclusion. I think we need to have our own curriculum that we're pushing. It's like, no, if you must have something in the class, this is an individualism focused way of presenting this. And I just don't know if conservatives are going to create something like that or have they? And
yeah. In one of these Amaze videos, the video is like, oh, like what to do if you're not liking your body. And at first I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, this has to do with like pre-puberty, starting puberty, hair on your legs, whatever. And then of course the video gets about halfway into it. And then it's like, what to do if you don't like your body. And then there's like a little boy picking up a dress and putting it up against him. And it's like, well, now you planted that as a seed, as that is something you can go to if you're not feeling great about your body and you're a little boy. Try a dress on. That's probably not something that would have occurred to them before. And now because of this educational, instructional video, I don't know. It sounds like I'm making a big deal of it, but it's like, no, but it is. It's really kind of scary. And we got to start putting, and I know Daily Wire is putting out kids content. I think PragerU is going to start doing kids content. So maybe that's the answer.
Well, it's also, what's it called? The Mott and Bailey, where it looks like it's about one thing, but it's about something else. Like when I hear, if you're unhappy with your body, immediately I jumped to, of course, when you're going through puberty, it's very, very awkward for a variety of reasons, no matter who you are. I also thought about, body dysmorphia, but when you begin introducing these ideas of, what does a a young boy's desire to or desire not to wear a dress have to do with how he feels about his body? It's so insidious and it's so disingenuous to kind of just sneak these things in there. And again, it's like you were saying, this is material that is aimed at young people who don't have the wherewithal to be able to suss out what this is. I mean, they're conflating an issue. It's like, okay, if you are I feel like if you are a young man who likes to wear dresses, that's a different thing than my feet are too big, and I have all this acne or something, and my shoulders are weird, and all the girls are taller than me. Like there's like that's a different thing.
Yeah, you have scoliosis? Put on a dress. And it's so creepy.
The dress will hide it. It's made for
exactly
curves.
what you said, Clifton, because it's like you watch these videos on this Amaze site and you're like, it's all cartoons. It's all very kid friendly. It's all very like nice. And these kids that like, and I remember like, I didn't talk to my parents about any sex issues. I never got the talk. Is that the way to go? Maybe not necessarily, because then I was doing stuff like at 14 that I probably wasn't ready to do. But you can see like these videos are going to reach kids that like, yeah, they don't want to talk about their parents. It is an awkward subject. They're very much more on the internet than we were growing up. So it's just like, it's just totally, they're able to plant these seeds because it's under the guise of like, oh, it's kids content. And we've all seen the viral, what was it, that like parade? Was it the Blues Clues like gay parade or something like that?
Yes.
It went viral. It was like this parade of like trans animals and shit. Like this is the pansexual lion.
Yeah, pansexual.
Yeah.
They went beyond gay. They went into polyamory and stuff. Blues Clues.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're just okay. You're gonna teach other people's kids.
It's a bisexual beaver.
It's a belief system. You don't. There are people.
I was trying to go for alliteration, but I was like, oh, whoops.
Polyamorous panda. Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot. By the way, somebody in the chat, Lieutenant Cyber, thank you. Tuttle twins. I forgot about them. For any parents who are looking for something different, I have checked out a few of their things, and they're basically, I think, libertarians who are creating content for kids that is all about individualism. I don't know if they do any sex ed or anything like that, but that's a good suggestion. Do you guys mind if we break and read a couple of these super chats?
Yes, let's do it.
Pirate, can you put some of these up?
Yarr.
Fitness with Julian.
Is this your guy? Hey! Is this your guy?
No, but this is a different cool guy. I'm gonna talk to him about fitness one day. Fitness with Julian says, love the new channel, Keri. You guys are awesome. Thank you, sir. Clifton, you missed this. There's a trainer at my gym, and this morning I've seen him there for like a year. Yeah, this morning he was like, he finally came over and was like, I've been trying to figure out who you are. He was like, are you Keri Smith? And then he said, he watches Friday Night Tights and Chrissie all the time, and I was like, that's such a small world in my little gym.
Give him my Insta.
I'll give him your Insta. Matthew Hammond, thank you, sir. He says, Keri invited my two favorite YouTube people. Did they play Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters theme song at the roller skating rink with flashing lights?
Bustin' makes me feel good. That's the best part of the song.
That's funny.
And RMR, thank you, sir, says, love you. Love Yule. Thanks.
Love Yule.
At the roller skating rink, here's my only thing about going to a rink now. Because the decor and everything is still stuck in the 60s and 70s, which I love, I wish that all the music was old too. I mean, some 80s stuff, but when they play the newer stuff, I'm like, I don't know. It's not as good as
yeah.
Matthew Hammond, wow, thank you, says the left is upset they were accurately identified as groomers. The problem is millennials have no friends that they can talk to about issues. As teachers, instead, as authority figures, they befriend or have something with students.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
they treat their kids like their friends.
this is true. And I used to be, I used to think that the sort of codes of conduct that were structured around being friends with, like, for example, some therapists won't befriend you on, if you're their client, they won't be your friend on Facebook or things like that. And I used to think that was dumb. I'm not sure what I think about that anymore in terms of therapists, but when it comes to teachers, like, yeah, I don't think kids need a window into their teacher's life. I don't know. I don't think they need to be on their Facebook. I don't think they need to be in their DMs or on their Instagram. It's like,
No.
you're there to instruct them in reading and math and science, and that's it.
But
Like,
even if you are not friends, even if teachers are not friends with their kids on social media, like my sister's a teacher out in Vegas, they have systems that are similar to social media. They have messaging systems that they use with their students when they're at home, especially through all the like learning from home time period. Like they have basically the equivalent of like instant message and group chats and stuff like already through the school programs.
yeah. Tara T, thanks, lady, says, I have taken youth protection courses as part of volunteering with my kids' activities. What the groomers, in quotes, advocate for violates all the principles of youth protection. Thank you, lady.
Yeah.
Oh, one more. Matthew Hemming. Keri, conservatives had something like this when the Bible was taught in public schools. The left replaced Christianity with their woke religion.
That's what I was getting at earlier.
Yes. We already have a blueprint for removing it from the schools. I mean, we have the blueprint that they use to remove the Bible, to remove Christianity. So government schools are secular. They're paid for with taxpayer dollars. They should not be providing moral instruction. Did y'all snowball? I don't know what that means.
Is that like a cocaine reference?
Well, maybe for you, Chrissy, but
I'm just learning the lingo. I'm not down with what's up.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the super chats. Unless you guys, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about today, and then if you have topics, we can hit them or whatever. But obviously, the Supreme Court nomination, the confirmation. Do you want to talk about that or just skip it?
I was thinking today about it's really dumb. It's kind of silly, but I was like, the way that I see Black people celebrating Kentaji Brown's confirmation reminds me of Black people celebrating when OJ got acquitted.
Oh my God. That is so. There must be a way to meme that.
But I mean, I think when Obama got elected, that was another point. So I had to like temper my
congratulations
my
on your win. Yeah. Oh, it's like
but it was like
the most superficial thing.
There was there's an actress named Jennifer Lewis who I love. She's been around for a long time, but she has this clip. It got shared. It was going around on Twitter this morning where, she's doing this dance and, you see these posters going around or these graphics going around where, they're in essence deifying Justice Brown. I was going to say Miss Brown, but now it's Justice Brown. And, I have to say that I just, I can recognize the historicity of the moment, but at the same time, I don't like why she is there. Some made the point that it's an explicitly political appointment, which is sort of a non-argument because someone made the point that every Supreme Court confirmation and justice is a political appointee in a sense. But at the same time, I mean, she's there because she's Black and she's a woman. Joe Biden explicitly said that that's what he was looking for. And as someone who has been a diversity hire on many, many occasions, it's just, it's an insult to, if you actually do have the chops and you do have the smarts and you do have the career achievements, regardless of whether or not you agree with some of her previous rulings. And, obviously people who are not, ideologically aligned with her are going to have issues with her confirmation. That's to be expected. It's to be expected that a Democratic president is going to appoint someone who is on the left side of the spectrum, of course. But I grapple with this because at the same time, would she have gotten there if there wasn't an explicit effort to put a black woman on the court in the first place? And I don't know about that, but at the same time, it's hard for me to celebrate, and it's hard for me. You know, I had a friend who tweeted at me, a high school buddy, when her nomination was announced, and he just said, "Just be happy, bro." And I said, "No, I can't just be happy, because there's this attitude, particularly among Black Americans, where, you know, the Democrats or the political left, broadly speaking, will dangle these carrots and say, "Hey, look at what we're doing for you," and it's obviously, it's obviously pandering, and it just gives them, in my opinion, it gives them cover. It gives these people cover, these political leaders, these fake activists or whatever. It gives them cover to not really do anything, or in many cases, actively do harm. You know, so we can look at this, we can celebrate this short-term victory. We can look at this sort of shiny thing and this symbol of progress. You know, and again, why are we pretending as if we didn't have a black president, or black-ish president? And you know, so I guess so on the broader point is that I just can't. It's hard for me to celebrate. It's like, you know, she seems like she has the qualifications, but it's an insult to those qualifications when it's clear that she's just there because I mean, she's a token. Sorry, that's what it is.
Yeah. Imagine if Trump was like, "I'm going to appoint a white guy." You know, like when Kavanaugh was being confirmed.
But another wrinkle to that, though, if Trump had come out and said, "I'm going to appoint a black woman," I mean, you know, say if it was like Winsome Sears or whatever, the lieutenant governor,
they would have been like,
Virginia,
"Oh, how
they
could
would have
you?
found
It's just
a way.
Token." Yeah.
They would have destroyed her left, right, and center. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. But they would have found a way to just completely ruin her. They tried to do it with Amy, what is it, Amy Coney?
Oh,
Coney
yeah,
Barrett,
Coney Barrett.
You know, with her black kids, and they were trying to take. They were targeting her adopted children and trying to, you know, take aim at them.
Wow.
You know, I mean, these people are just, they're scumbags.
That was a wake up.
Do you think she feels like a token? Do you think, like, or, you know what, she's got this sweet job for life. Who cares how she got there? You know.
She might be. Maybe she feels that way. At the same time, one thing I will say about Republicans is that I think they're mistaken for being callous because they don't really tend to pander to these aggrieved groups. I think Trump sort of broke with that. I mean, I remember the RNC convention where, you know, they were trotting out all these black and brown faces, and I was like, I see what y'all are doing. I mean, I know why you're doing it, but you know, it's just. And just the way that this is a total non sequitur, but to hear Trump, you know, African Americans, we did this for the African American community. All of my African American friends, and we have African Americans here and African Americans there. And I'm like, you know, and this is another side note, but I have a coworker, a black woman, who, like me, does not like the term African American because it's too broad. It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, I had a roommate who was an Alvin Ailey dancer, beautiful girl, but she was she was Canadian.
Wow.
And with Jamaican ancestry, but she had no sort of accent. So here in the United States, she'd be African American, although I would call her a Jamaicanadian, which is really what she was. And
sounds like a power drink. Sounds like a thirst quencher. Jamaicanade.
I have some Jamaicanadian. You know, so it's, I don't know, that's a whole other thing. But you know, I don't like pandering in general. But this Supreme Court confirmation feels like a huge pander. But it's really an insult to Justice Brown, unfortunately.
Don't ask where the Black Lives Matter money went. Look at the Supreme Court lady.
The way in which they announced it before they picked her, just like they did with Kamala Harris, the way in which Biden said it will be a black woman, or with Kamala, he said it will be a woman. That's the pandering part. That's insulting. Yep. That disgusts me. It's
like, why don't you say it's going to be the most qualified person? Yes. And then you pick a black woman. Then it's not pandering.
Yes, and that. So when Obama won, I was one of those people celebrating, and at the time, I thought it was historic. It was historic. But it also signified to me, because I was deep in social justice at the time, and I believed our country to be, this thoroughly white supremacist nation, and but I also believed that we were changing, and I think a lot of them don't. They're like stuck in the past. They don't want to think that we're progressing. Which is a great point that you don't call them progressives. They're regressing. They want to ignore everything like this positive path that we've been on historically towards more individualism and more equality. And so I did believe, I thought Obama being elected, I was like, what a great sign that our country has put a lot of people's like individual racism or bigotry into the past, that a black man could win. That is historic. It did make me happy for that reason. I don't see a reason to celebrate this time. They're calling it historic. Pirate, can you put up that one article? They are calling it historic. And yes, it is the first black woman, but I don't view it in the same way.
Looks like she's about to, looks like he's about to kiss her. He looks like he's going in for a sniff.
He's about to sniff her.
Wow, so fucking awkward.
Let me see the headline, Pirate. I just want to read if anybody wants to go find this. This is NBC News. It says Biden marks historic confirmation of Kentaji Brown Jackson to Supreme Court. And even though, yes, it's historic, it's the first black woman, it just doesn't have that meaning, I'd say, that meaning that came with Obama's election. It doesn't mean the same thing to me because I no longer hold the view that they hold, that our country is so backwards and so white supremacist that I don't buy into the narrative. Therefore, I don't think this is a sign of anything other than them being successful at getting someone who upholds their ideology onto the court.
Well, if we have made progress, then all the race hustlers are out of a job.
That's true. You can't.
Well, it goes back to this idea of competing moralities. I think there's a lot of well-meaning people who truly believe that they are fighting the good fight. But I think there's also a lot of people who keep pretending that we are still stuck in Jim Crow. Yes. It's funny you mentioned. I remember when Obama was elected, I called. The first thing I did when it was announced, I was sitting in a bar in New York, right around the corner from Tisch, and it was maybe around 8, maybe 10 p.m. And all the screens in the place had this. They announced that he was the president-elect. The bar immediately erupted, and I called my grandmother, who was born in 1936, and
wow.
we pretty much cried on the phone together about it. It was such a huge historical moment. And if you were in New York City, it was kind of hilarious because the streets were just rumbling and roiling with so much excitement. You were on the subway, and people were just like, all these complete strangers were like, "Yo, yeah, we did it!" And every time, it would pull up to a stop, the doors would open, and you would hear just screaming, and then like at every stop, and so it was this huge historical thing, and regardless of how I felt about him as an actual president, you just can't deny how momentous that was. But this here, there's a cynicism about it. I think that's what we're getting at. That there's a cynical nature about this appointment and about the people who are celebrating it, and about the people. There's a cynicism about the people that are pushing through. That pushed through her nomination and confirmation that makes it a little it taints it for me. I'm just saying this, what you said, Keri. It's not. It doesn't have that same sort of magic that Obama's election did.
No. I think they just have so little. They're assuming the average American is just so fucking stupid. Like all they're really going to take away from this is, wow, Biden appointed a black woman to a really important position. He must be a really good guy. And that's what they're assuming most people will just take away from it.
Chrissie, they will, especially black Americans. They absolutely will. It goes back to what I was saying about my friend from high school who was like, just be happy. Their view on this, if you live in a reality where you accept as axiomatic that America is a racist country, it has a racist past, and we're still dealing with racism in the present, it's the classic line of, we've made progress, but there's still so far to go. Then when you see something like this, you can just be like, oh, this is yet more evidence that that Joe Biden and the Democrats, they're on our side as black people. I mean, there more
Wow.
blacks did swing for Trump in the previous election. I'm here in Atlanta, and let me tell you, there is more heterodox opinion among blacks. I think blacks tend to be more socially conservative in a lot of ways than the Democrat Party or thinks they are. That said, the Democrats have captured black American I don't know, worldview, ideology, whatever, so thoroughly that this tokenization will be viewed as like, look, it's a step forward and we can celebrate.
Wow.
And then on top of that, you add the gender component as well. There's a huge strain in many black communities, a huge conversation about black women and this idea that, if you're born black, you already have one strike, but if you're a black woman, you have two strikes. So it's going to be that much harder for you to get ahead in this country. You have two. I mean, that's sort of the nexus of intersectionality. You have these sort of competing identities that make your life even more difficult. So you add the race component. You have the race component, but then you add the gender component on top of that. So it's a double whammy. You win on two fronts, and the only step now that we need to take is to have a fat black transgendered quadriplegic in a hijab.
Yeah.
That's the next appointment. So we'll see what happens there.
Yes, they're just
In an ethically made wheelchair. Yeah.
Sustainably made.
But she's not a biologist, so how can she really truly claim that she's a woman?
Thank you. This is the one. So I don't actually, I know people who were all over all of her different statements and her past history, her sentencing of convicted sex offenders, things like that. They were looking at her whole history during the confirmation trials. I lost interest after I heard her say she couldn't define woman, because to me, that means, well, I mean, you can't define anything then. That means you're not bound to reality. You're not bound to reality. You're not bound to the Constitution. So how are you going to decide? You should recuse yourself from any case that involves women, first of all, because you don't know what they are. You can't define what they are, but how do you define any words at that point? How do you interpret the Constitution? There's nothing else that needs to be said. No way should you be confirmed if you can't say what a woman is.
Well, I also think, though, that was sort of a weird moment for me. I mean, I know why people are upset, but it's also like, you're at a confirmation hearing for a Supreme Court justice, and you have, what was her name? Was it Washburn, Blackburn, whatever her name is, was like, well, what is a woman? And it's like, it might, playing the devil's advocate, it might be one of those questions where you're just so kind of thrown for a loop, and where in the back of her mind, she's like, the fuck are you? What are you even asking me for? It's just one of those questions where like you hear it, and it's such an absurd thing that that it should be obvious to everybody that you just don't even know how to come up with an answer about it. But I do think it's sort of weird that she says, I'm not a biologist, and it's like, well, I don't know. I see why people were upset about it, but at the same time, it's like it was sort of a weird gotcha moment, which made me feel like, it's the cynicism of politics that I abhor, which keeps pushing me further and further into anarchism. But that's another.
Yeah, she in her brain fart was like, let me try and say the correct answer instead of using my own common sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what they all do, though, isn't it? It's like we're it's this very public hearing. It's all political, and we're trying to tap dance and and not really answer questions because we have to be safe. It's I don't know. I think
I hear what you're saying, and possibly she doesn't know how to answer that question, but and it was a gotcha moment. I agree with that. But I think it was a gotcha moment because they wanted to see, is she beholden to this ideology or not? Right. And I don't know. Yeah, after that, I was like, well, I don't even care about the other stuff. Like, what do words mean? What is your name? What is your name? Like, who? You're the first Black woman. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's also, well, that's the hilarity of it, isn't it? Because they're celebrating her as this first black woman, but but they're slaves to this ideology, so to speak. I shouldn't use the word slave in this context, should I?
Just say intern for college credit. Yeah.
But that like they will simultaneously celebrate this confirmation of this black woman, and yet the word woman is increasingly becoming offensive to these very same people. And it's so strange because, and you don't see it when you're in it, but once you step away from this ridiculous ideology with all of its internal contradictions, we're on the outside being like, y'all are crazy. That's why, I mean, you mentioned James Lindsay, and I say to myself, he definitely has his acerbic kind of Twitter persona or whatever, but when people say he's gone crazy, and I'm thinking to myself, is it that he's gone crazy, or is it that he is shining light on an ideology and a worldview that itself is so radical and so extreme that he looks crazy just for pointing it out?
Yes. Yes.
It's like maybe the people who are mad at him are the ones who are actually crazy because they subscribe to all this stuff, which has very little basis in reality. And again, it's a worldview which it doesn't cohere logically at all in so many ways, and we can see that with the celebration of this black woman who, by people who increasingly don't want to erode whatever a woman is.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, did you guys see? You're making me think of this clip that Myth Informed found of Dennis Prager on Bill Maher 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago. Did you see that clip?
I didn't see the clip, but I saw the tweet. I didn't watch the clip though.
I'm gonna pull it up. We'll do some super chats while I'm pulling it up, Pirate, and I'll send this to you because I wasn't prepared to talk about it. But you're making me think of it because Prager basically said something that was true, but they treated him like he was insane. Nunya Biz says, the only thing I knew about my former teachers was that they were teachers. Teachers never mixed their personal lives with students. This was in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I knew some of my teachers were married. I mean, they would sometimes say something about, my husband this or that. And I had somebody arguing with me on Twitter the other day. They were like, this is going to prevent, parents will be able to sue if a lesbian teacher mentions her wife. And I'm like, no, that's not instruction on sexual orientation. No. And will there be could you find maybe one bad apple of some parent doing that? I don't know. Come to me when the bad apple happens. But that's a possibility I think that's a risk that we should be willing to take, that there might be one person who tries to sue over something stupid like that in order to protect kids from this indoctrination. Yes, let's protect them. See if someone does that. That's not the intent of the law, though. I think the left thinks that's the intent of the law, that people just want to start suing gay people.
They're just being dramatic. It's like, think of it. It's still your work. Even though you're a teacher and you're dealing with kids, it's still your workplace. Like, you wouldn't call a meeting at the insurance company you work at and tell everybody how you realized you were a lesbian after you had a terrible one-night stand. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't do that at your workplace of all adults. So that doesn't mean it's okay to do it at your workplace of all children, because they can't like make a weird face and be like, oh, what the fuck? They can't really complain about you to HR. Kids just have to sort of like sit there and take it, and they want your validation, and they're kids. They're in survival mode.
Yeah, they're soaking everything up.
Yeah.
Simon Belmont, thank you, sir, says, Clifton, right on. The pandering doesn't fix what they say is a problem. It's like flipping a house, but not fix anything, but make it just look appealing.
Yeah. Also, shout out Castlevania. Thank you, Simon.
Was that the Avatar, Castlevania?
Oh yeah.
Torgo the White says, nothing like tackling racism and sexism with blatant racism and sexism. Hell, Poconos, Up All Night Crew, and Clifton.
I can't tell if that's a joke.
It is.
Okay, I sent you this link, Pirate. Oh, he says he's got one more. Okay. Oh, no, there we go.
Oh.
So
Oh,
this is
wow.
from Myth Informed. It says Dennis Prager is mocked on Bill Maher when he describes the now mainstream leftist belief that men can menstruate. This is from November of 2019. Queer theory and critical race theory ideology are so radical and incoherent, one risks looking crazy pointing them out. See if you can hit play there.
These are giant left-wing lies.
We're talking about degrees.
To say that men can menstruate is a lie, and that is what is said.
Yes. Wait, where did that?
I never. You never heard it, right?
Wow.
Check it out. Anyone who says a man cannot menstruate is considered transphobic.
I missed this.
Are you kidding?
Wow.
Where are you getting this?
Just Google it. Can men menstruate?
Who is saying this? You're
Who
talking
is
about a
saying it?
very small percentage.
Oh, really? Then how do you allow men, biological men, to run against women in the races in Connecticut and set all the high school records?
Okay, but that's
they're called men.
No.
The Nation magazine said they're women.
Okay, but I would agree with you on that. The way you framed it is nonsense.
I framed it perfectly accurately.
No, you didn't.
Wow.
About is yes, someone who is transgendered, was a man, now claims to be a woman, is a woman, is beating the dog shit out of other women in the race because, of course, they have more muscle mass. And even Martina Navratilova came out and said, this is ridiculous. You might as well not have women's sport. This is a far cry from saying men can menstruate.
Wow.
I agree.
But that's not where anyone went with that, but you.
Oh, boy.
At the University of Berkeley men's room, tampons are given out. Check it out. UC Berkeley men's rooms have tampon dispensers.
Would you say
that's
Dennis,
probably because men are pussy whipped and their girlfriend said, "Go get me a tampon."
Wow.
That's a much more logical. Okay, all right. Moving on to the next. Dennis.
Wow. Not even taking it seriously.
Wait, keep going.
What did I say that wasn't under you?
You said that we think that men menstruate and no one does. Have you heard about it?
I'm a doctor.
I missed that one, I confess.
And this is one of the premier reporters. He knows everything. These people are these are doctors. He's one of the great
investigators. That the LGBTQ normative statement is men can menstruate.
Wow, he was on top of that.
I got to jump in because there's so many things that he brought up. One, it just goes to show that these people are so, I joke in economic terms. These people, they have an abundance of self-absorption and a scarcity of self-awareness, and that's what these people exhibit. They are incapable of introspection. And, like you said, Dennis Prager was correct there. Another thing that it brings up for me is the rapidity and swiftness with which these things take over. And it's why it's important to nip them in the bud and talk about it now. And I think, kind of going back, maybe walking back a little bit, this idea about groomers, maybe there is some utility in pushing forward and saying groomer, because right now, if you attack it now as what it is, you might look crazy, you might look disingenuous in the short term, but perhaps in the long term, we see how quickly these ideas take hold and take on. And because it makes me think about, and I hate to admit this, but I remember when the legalization of gay marriage, was a huge thing. Where, side note, where Biden gaffed Obama into saying we should do that or legalize it, but. I remember at the time I scoffed at conservatives, just the same way this panel, Bill Maher's panel, scoffed at Dennis Prager. When conservatives would say, okay, we can legalize this now, but then it's a slippery slope. Because, some people were saying ridiculous things like, is bestiality going to be next? But there were some people who were talking about child abuse, child predation, and all kinds of other transgressions. And now look where we are. And it's a very... Again, it goes back to those competing moral values, where on one hand you have someone who is saying, and this is my personal belief, but in a free liberal society, gay people should be just as should have the right to be as miserable in matrimony as straight people. Present company accepted, obviously, Miss Smith. But at the same time, you can't be so deaf to potential long-term ramifications, particularly now in the age of social media, where ideas, particularly bad ideas and lies, spread so quickly that you ignore the broader scope of the conversation. That clip is astounding. That's why I was laughing so much, because it's just so. It's an amazing piece of footage,
isn't it?
And Prager was right.
Like
Prager was right.
Time machine. Yeah.
He's the way in which. Do you see the way they mock him? So you've got the audience laughing and mocking him, the host is laughing and mocking him, the other panelists, and then he even turns to them and is like, to point out their credentials. To let you know, like, this guy's Ronan Farrow is a journalist.
He's
Ronan
smart.
Farrow.
This
is a doctor. We all think you're stupid. This isn't happening. 2 short years later,
nobody was able to follow the logic. Like, yes, it's ridiculous logic, but if you followed it, if you said, hypothetically, if this is what people believe, yes, we can get to this place. But they weren't even willing to do that. It's only okay when they say it's okay.
Yeah. It's it's amazing, so it just goes back to people like James who are saying, who maybe he's one of the Cassandras, or who's looking into the future and saying, and that's why it's kind of funny, because I joke that I'm becoming one of those people who's starting to say, like, oh, these goddamn commies are ruining everything. And I think a lot of people on the left, partly because they lack this self-awareness, and frankly they're ignorant about a lot of this kind of stuff, but the people who don't subscribe to this sort of leftist ideology, the reason that they are so against a lot of the social justice stuff is because they understand the ideological roots of where a lot of this stuff is coming from, and they know where it leads, or they know where it has led historically, so they're warning off about that. So they look, so maybe they look crazy, maybe they look like extremists to normies like me. Maybe we could look at the confirmation of and I said her name incorrectly before, but excuse me, their name incorrectly before, but Justice
herself,
Brown Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So you might just be blissfully happy about this idea that there's a black woman on the Supreme Court, but it's like, okay, well, what is the ideological vision underneath why she was there, and maybe we should address why that happened, and that's that's really what I'm opposing. It's not necessarily her confirmation and alone by itself. It's the subtext underneath it.
Yes,
but we look crazy, so.
And also, like, Alex Jones is somebody who looked crazy, and it's like, yeah, maybe his delivery was a little harsh or something. But now, how many of us are talking about ideas that he talked about that was crazy for, that are now kind of very mainstream?
It goes back to that thing before of, like, what it maybe, and I feel like the last couple of years, particularly with the pandemic, has exposed, is that you have these people who. I think it's difficult for people to fathom or wrap their minds around this idea that people could be so corrupt or so inept and yet also at the same time hold these positions of power, and also appear to be sort of what's the term I'm looking for? They appear to be kind and friendly and doing the right thing, but it's like, well, how do you think they got into these high, top bureaucratic positions? There, is what I was saying before about sex offenders. They're not going to go around screaming that I'm a corrupt individual. They're going to be able to mask what it is because there are social taboos against who they are and what they do. But the point is that, you mentioned Alex Jones. There was a point where I definitely became a regular Alex Jones viewer, and I was like, I'm watching Alex Jones. Like, what the hell is going on right now? But the thing is, it's like, yeah, his delivery can be bombastic and over the top, and he is hilarious. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, like, is he insane, or is that the people that he's talking about and the things that they are doing, those are the insane things. He's just talking about it. And that's what that's the big question for me now.
That's how I feel now whenever I try to talk about the Great Reset. So I just kind of avoid it, because even though it's out there, it's like right in front of you. They put out press releases about it. They put out marketing materials. You will, in the year 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. I mean, the World Economic Forum, none of this stuff is a secret. They wrote a book Klaus Schwab wrote a book about COVID and how to use COVID to implement the Great Reset. That's like the title of the book.
And of course, ask your doctor if the Great Reset is right for you. We ask that for the algorithm.
Thank you. Watching out for my back. But yeah, so even that though, I'm like, you're right. It's so insane that if you even mention it, I know it makes me sound crazy. So I usually am just like, I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm just like, what? You go read about it and see what you think.
Yeah, when I first heard Trump talk about fake news, I was like, he's crazy. What is he talking about? And it took enough times of me hearing it to start really look at the news differently. I'd be like, oh my God, like he's right. So
yeah, fake news is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fake news is, yeah. Well, thanks for watching that clip with me. I just thought that was amazing. And
that is just so funny.
Just 2 short years ago, a good thing would be if somebody has time and wants to do this. I bet the Myth Informed guys are probably doing this. Is all of those panelists, including Bill Maher, the host, who sat there and laughed at him in 2019 and said, "No, nobody's saying that men menstruate." I wonder if any of them have tweeted or retweeted all the different like National Organization for Women and all the different places that have since then said men can menstruate. I wonder if any of them have now, contradicted themselves and jumped on board the men menstruate train. I'm sure a lot of them have.
Well, that's a good idea.
I bet. I wonder if Bill Maher has changed his mind by now. I think maybe he's seen enough of the insanity where he's starting to come around finally and saying like, well, this is a little weird, guys.
Yeah. Another person you're mentioning, Cassandra, I mean, Jordan Peterson is another one who he was warning us of things in 2016, 2017 that struck me as true. That's part of what helped to wake me up was listening to him, and he was putting words to things I was seeing around me and experiencing on the social justice left. But I don't know why it was that I was able to hear what he was saying and see, yes, where all of this might potentially lead, right? Whereas others, and even some friends of mine, would look at him and say, all of that's crazy. Nothing like that's going to happen here,
Oh, there's a really interesting comment in the chat from Matt Deckard. Jon Stewart is here to replace Bill Maher. That's very interesting because Jon Stewart was like basically retired. He was basically done. And they brought him back, and now he is singing the song. He's got the message down. And whereas we do see Bill Maher going like, huh? What? No, he's a little bit, the spell's a little broken on him. God, that would be so interesting if that's what ended up happening.
Well, Stewart is disappointing lately. I mean, I've seen you guys have probably seen a couple of things from him over the past 2 years where I thought, oh, he's an independent thinker. He's starting
the lab leak. Yeah, the lab leak.
Yeah, exactly. But now that he's got this new Apple show and it's all just woke, and he's woker. I saw the clip of him and Cory Booker. He's more woke than Booker. I don't know. That's disappointing.
Wow.
I think part of that is just that's what you have to do to be when you're pitching. Woke is still the dominant belief system right now in Hollywood, and so you have to pitch woke if you want to get it on the air, I think, even if you're Jon Stewart. But
doesn't matter if nobody watches it. Yeah.
Right. Pirate. Thank you. Pirate's dropping links in the chat. Yes, you can follow Clifton Duncan on Twitter at Clifton A. Duncan.
Thank you, Pirate.
And put the Chrissie one up too.
Why?
Well, I don't have a soothing voice like Clifton.
Did you say why?
Why?
Follow Chrissie here.
https://twitter.com/Chrissie Mayr.
Clifton, could I just hire you to do all of my ads?
Follow Keri here. https://twitter.com/real Keri Smith. No spaces, no underscore.
All Keri.
Gosh. Are you going to start doing, we had talked about on your channel, I know you've been doing interviews, but we had talked about how you were going to start doing some acting stuff. Are you doing that yet? Or
you mean like performance-based content?
Like performance, so sort of plays and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do that. When I got on, you asked me if there's any good news, and I was like, no, not really. It's to be frank, it's been kind of dejected lately because I'm sort of I'm having difficulty coming to grips and accepting that I'll, at least in the capacity that I was working before, I'll never work again because of the mandates that are industry wide now, and the unions are all aboard, but they're passing the buck in a really cowardly way. They refuse to acknowledge people who have already gotten the disease.
Wow.
But I mean, Broadway in New York, and then the TV and film industry in LA. Now, I mean, there are companies that are demanding that you get the booster as well, and and insurance companies are demanding it. Bonding agencies are demanding it as well. So they're all in. I don't know if it'll ever really change. So, now I'm just like, well, what's the next step for me now? Where do I go? I feel a bit. If you want to talk about good news and bringing joy to things, I mean, I in terms of embracing my role as a content creator / influencer, that seems to be growing, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, I mean, I've been acting since I was 16 years old, and it's tough to let that go, especially when I've done nothing wrong, but live my life, and I do want to. But my wheelhouse is performing, so however I can do it. And I see what people like Chrissie are doing, and if there's a way that I can, especially with singing, if there's a way that I can, build some kind of career and maybe down the line crowdfund future projects. I mean, I'm talking to people behind the scenes. I stopped for a while because I was isolating myself as I was spiraling deeper and deeper into a deep, dark hole. But, I'll have to resume those conversations again. There are artists out there, there are performers out there who agree with me, and they see, I mean, I'm in this chat group right now. Someone posted a photo. They're doing a production that's going to Broadway of a show called 1776. It's a musical. People
wow.
look at it, but they are doing it with an entirely female, non-binary, and trans cast.
Wow.
And, no.
And
Nobody wants to see that.
Even Tiger doesn't like that shit. But even but there's also this other musical that came to, I don't know if it's opened yet. But it was like this Pulitzer Prize winning big gay black queer musical, and I think about it. There was a point where especially once I started weight training, and I got a lot of work as an actor. But then there's a point where the work in the theater just stopped. And I have my opinion is that it's because I'm not gay and I'm not trans. People think that I'm gay, which is hilarious, but I'm neither of those things.
Lean into that.
And no, I don't think I will.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not calling it 1776. Woke as hell. You know what, Clifton? The answer is, and there's still some clubs in the city I can't work because of the jab. Try to create as much of your own content as possible. And I know people are mentioning in the chat Daily Wire, try to create as much as you can on your own and through collaborations that get yourself to a point where you've got a body of work that when a Daily Wire is looking for someone like you, or they have a project or Prager you or whatever, they can go, people will be recommending you to them, and they'll be like, oh, what about Duncan? What about Duncan? Just like I hear people now talking about, oh, we should have like a conservative SNL, and it's like, if somebody like at The Blaze or Daily Wire, we're going to be like, yeah, let's do a comedy show that now, and they were to put that out there, boom, you're in the recommendations. So it's just trying to figure out like, okay, what can I do? What can I create right now while I'm waiting for these bigger opportunities to find me?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, even with the Daily Wire stuff. I mean, I think one thing that I bristle against is this idea that we need quote unquote conservative art, and nothing that even the phrase by itself to me just sounds like I don't want to, I don't know about quote unquote conservative art, like politically conservative art. It's just this idea like I just want to do good work that is seen by. That is enjoyed by everyone, and I am encouraged. That's not to say that I reject. Any of the audience or what their political beliefs are, but I will say that I have been heartened by the response to the stuff that I have been doing. One of my most popular YouTube videos or podcasts is my half-hour conversation with Victor Davis Hanson, and we talked about the importance of classical literature. And, and that's what we talked about, and people loved it. And normally with Victor, my friend Victor, he's always called upon to talk about the political issues of the day. But he's sitting there talking about Greek tragedy, and people are really enjoying it. I have videos that have thousands of views of me doing Shakespeare, and people want more of it. So to my mind, it's not about, well, we have to do the classics or keep them alive. It's just that, there's this prevailing attitude in the industry, and again, which is dominated by these left-wing people that are like the kind that were sitting on the Bill Maher panel, who think that they have some sort of monopoly on culture and sophistication.
Yes.
And the more it's just hilarious because they say stuff like, well, there's no intellectuals on the right. You have to be smart. I'm like, they have no idea who Thomas Sowell is, or Walter E. Williams, or Victor Davis Hanson, or Douglas Murray, any of these people. But the point is that I'm encouraged that there are a lot of people who just want to see good work from artists who don't fucking condescend to them all the time and think that they're stupid.
Yes.
So the goal is to reach those people, and what's great right now is that we have the technology now and the outreach to reach those people directly without this big machine in the way. So in the same way that people, and I have this conversation with other people as well, is that the idea about being famous, no one cares about fame anymore. It's all about going viral, and no one cares about movie stars or celebrities, because you can, if you have you can be an Alabama 6 and put on some leggings and film yourself doing squats in front of a mirror or something, and get more followers than Michael B. Jordan. Or people, they don't look up to movie stars; they look up to podcasters and YouTubers now. So, there is. For people who have the resources and the organizational skills and the sort of personal power to organize and build something great, there is potential there, especially in this era of decentralization, where these machines are kind of breaking down and people are saying these aren't relevant to me anymore. So, so that's a long-winded way of me agreeing with you, Chrissie. But right now it's just like, how the hell do we do all this? But,
I think if those, yeah.
So there you go.
I think if those conservative organizations are smart, and thank you, Cheeky Mayor, for the super chat asking about the Daily Wire. I think if the Daily Wire is smart, they will have an eye towards creating content or creating entertainment that's not conservative entertainment, even though it's coming from a conservative organization. They just need to focus on making good stuff that's not censored, where they're not censoring ideas. That's it. If they try too hard to be like, we're going to present a conservative outlook and point of view, and we're going to seed it into our films and our TV shows, it's like, no, because then you're just doing the flip side. Like, nobody wants that. They just want good entertainment where they're not being preached to. And so I hope they are smart about that. I'm excited to see what they're doing, but I hear you. It seems to be, that's the only place that it's only the existing conservative organizations that are going to be able to take this on right now, I think, in terms of building alternate platforms and stuff for entertainment. But eventually, I hope it's more. I mean, I hope it grows. And I think Hollywood, I think all of these structures, Disney, all of these old corporations that have so much in terms of legacy and name, I think they're going to fall flat on their face eventually because people are tired of it.
Well, it's also just not, it's just not relevant. I'm going through, listening to the audio version of Thomas Sowell's Knowledge and Decisions, and there's one great, and I think it's a 1996 preface, but he talks about, I'm gonna bastardize it, but the notion and the sentiment, but basically talking about how of people, maybe be they institutions or corporations or whatever, being punished when their decisions stray too far from reality. And I think what we're seeing in a lot of these institutions is that they live in an unreality, and people are saying like, no, this is weird. I see a lot of comments who are talking about voice acting. Voice acting is a nice, it's nice like side money, but it doesn't really, it's not the same as the electricity, Chrissie, this, of being in front of,
that's like a
Keri,
phone bill. Yeah.
Yeah, of like being in front of a live audience, or, being a part of like one of the magic of making movies or doing just TV stuff. So you're on set and you're on camera. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but then when you add the editing and the lighting, cinematography, the sound, the score, and how it all comes together, it's a very thrilling and really more. I mean, the vanity in me is speaking now as well, but a more exposed kind of a thing. I mean, voice acting is like, you're sitting in a studio, maybe your own home studio, and you're doing. I mean, I'm not knocking people who are suggesting that and for ideas. It is a good idea, especially for like side income. But as far as the encompassing, I mean, I've been on stage for over 2 decades, and that's sort of where I'm an animal of the theater.
But Clifton, do you even think that there would be some gigs you would miss out on, even if you were vaxxed, because of your politics? Do you get the sense that would keep you out?
Well, it comes to another question, which is like, would I even want to work with these people anyway at this point? And would they want to work with me? Because I don't consider myself to be particularly right leaning. I just don't have a beef with the right, and that alone would single me out as a pariah and some sort of a fascist. It's funny because these are the same people who will scream up and down about McCarthyism and the HUAC, back in the 50s but now I call them. I should do like a long presentation about it. But I call them neo-McCarthyists. These are the new McCarthyists now. They are the ones who are blacklisting people because of their political beliefs, and because of their ideology, it really prevents. It really. I mean, everything is so sanitized for everyone's protection, and it's just boring. And people are seeing that. Yeah, you get a Spider-Man Far From Home every once in a while. You get a Dune every once in a while. But there's a few good TV shows. But the people that are making this stuff, I mean, I say it all the time. They're not making it for an audience anymore. They're making it to appease their peers.
Yes,
they're making it to appease critics. At like Variety, or the trade magazines like Hollywood Reporter, their producer friends, their actor friends. They're making it to appease themselves, and they don't care about the average Joe, Jane, Jamal, Jihadi.
Jihadi.
So I mean, I think you're right, Keri. I think all this stuff is. Times are definitely changing, and and we found that people can be sitting in their rooms, in a random chair, and be way, way, way more interesting than these airheaded dumb fuck movie stars.
Yes.
So
I mean, look at the success of some of like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic, and the fact that this guy, my Jim, watches those shows. That's what he's watching for entertainment, because they just want to hear authenticity, and they want something fun and hanging out with people who let especially in the age of the coof, when everybody was or a lot of people were socially isolating, and it's like, you want to know you're not the only one who thinks this. Everyone, society, Bill Maher's panel, that kind of mocking of like, you're crazy, this is crazy. I've heard so many people who come to shows like this and in the chat and on Friday Night Tights, I'm sure on your channels, that are like, thank you, I feel less alone. Like, I know I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one. And so people are looking for that. But in terms of entertainment, yes, I think Chrissie is right. I think it would be fun if you figure out how to do, maybe you or other actors get together and do some kind of, your own theater company. It doesn't have to say in there, we're the free speech theater company, or we're the whatever. It doesn't have to be that, but it just organically will be that if you're performing and working with other people. Do you know my friend Juana? She's on Twitter a lot. She's in the theater arts. She's
I want to introduce you.
I want to introduce you to Juana. I will.
But I've got friends. We're talking about trying to create, especially because
he has enough friends, Keri.
New York is that's not true at all. I got friends. We're trying to figure something out, because especially since New York has committed suicide, essentially, in a cultural sense. I mean, you have institutions like, Jazz at Lincoln Center, some of the, our best museums, they're demanding that you be boosted, just for entry, let alone just to work there. So, I'm thinking, if we can get another sort of for-profit sector, theater a la Broadway in a place like Florida, for instance, because there's so many New Yorkers moving down there anyway.
Yes.
and with our technology, be able to broadcast it out, sort of in the manner that plays for TV were done in like the 50s and 60s. I think there's a way that it can be done, and to make it relevant and to broadcast it, because now the potential is there where your audience is no longer just this sort of these cloistered progressives, quote unquote progressives in New York, or these freaking weirdos in LA. Now your audience becomes the rest of the planet. So that's there is a potential there, and we just have to. It just takes a lot of organization and
a lot of work,
resources, and a lot of pieces to fall in place. But ladies, I do.
I know you got to go.
Leave,
okay.
Unfortunately,
tell people where they can find you, and we'll make sure we put it in the description.
Sure. Well, you can find me on YouTube at Clifton Duncan, my first and last name. You can also find me on Twitter at Clifton A. Duncan. And last but not least, you can find me on Instagram at Clifton Duncan Online. And I forgot to mention, I also have a Substack called Musings from the Apocalypse, which I never update, but I will. But I will do at some point in the future. Make sure to listen to the Clifton Duncan podcast if you enjoy the sound of my sultry tones. There's plenty of content available there. Also, just a random shout out to Unwoke Apparel, who provided me with this shirt today, which says New York Unwoke on it. There's another one with Thomas Sowell on it that says show me the evidence, but which is pretty awesome as well. Thanks, Keri. Thanks, Chrissie. It's always great talking to both of you. Chrissie, I should probably talk to you more. I've talked to you like maybe once or twice, but I still think
we're friends now.
Wow, she brought up Kevin Samuels. That is hilarious.
Yeah, that's my jam. He's hilarious.
He is.
Oh, yeah, that's my album. That was me exploiting, my canceledness.
Bye, Clifton.
My album. Bye, Clifton.
Thanks for coming on. Have a good day. Happy weekend.
I got to work all weekend, so that's
me
what
too.
I'm looking for.
Woohoo!
All right, guys.
Goodbye, sir.
Y'all
bye.
I didn't mean to misgender you by calling you guys.
Oh, it's cool.
We're all guys here. Gays and days.
All right, bye.
Bye. Yeah, I wanted to put up that chat from Zato, that's the name of your album, live from January 6th.
Yes, you can get it on Amazon or iTunes. I think I'm still at number 2, which is like pretty amazing considering it came out weeks ago.
You're like the Tom McDonald of comedy.
Stop it.
Yes, you're just doing your own thing. You're rising to number 1. You don't have any system behind you that's pushing you up there on the iTunes charts. You're just doing it yourself. It's amazing.
0 agent, manager, representation, 0 blue check marks of any kind. So, yeah.
You've got a filing cabinet.
I have a filing cabinet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have my boobs.
And your boobs are in the chat. I did see them
They're always watching. Mm-hmm.
Do you have time to stick around, or do you have to go? I'm just going to read a couple of super chats and we can close out.
I have to go soonish.
Okay. Let's knock these out fast. Come on, Pirate.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Andrew Joyner, thank you, sir. Says some a-hole stole the front wheel of my bike today. Couldn't even be bothered to steal the whole effing bike. Losing my faith in humanity, but you guys give me hope. Well,
the wheel, that's easier to take than the whole bike, especially if you had it chained up.
Yeah. 52 movies a year. That sounds like a good plan. Says, I would have never discovered either of the 3 of you 3 years ago. The world may be going crazy, but at least we're finding great people to go into this crazy ride together. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, true.
I love that.
You gotta find the positive.
Matt Deckard, always super serious, gives us $1 for Clifton and 93 cents for the ladies. Pay gap.
Pay gap. But it's because we chose industries that don't pay as much.
Silverluck says, Chrissie is the master of blazing her own trail. This is true. Very brave lady. Mugsy Kens. Thank you, Mugsy Kens. Says, Keri, I love your new channel and your Kerfefe show. You were the only reason I watched your previous channel, and I'm really happy you didn't give up.
I think that's the reason why most people watched your last channel.
Mom's the word. Let's go to the next one. I'm so glad I found this community. It started with stumbling on the Frosk impression. where I was
Oh.
like, oh, G4 is back. And then I found out there's other people who aren't recycling the wood crap. Is that your most viral clip from that show?
God, I don't even know. I mean, I know for sure I definitely got my money's worth out of that $20 wig.
It was hilarious. If you guys haven't seen it, just look up Chrissie and Frost and Friday Night Tights. She did a great impression.
And Andy Masterson made a doll of me doing the Frost impression. Like, it's crazy. And I have to do a proper like unboxing video of this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Andy Masterson, same guy who brought you the Hunter Biden action figure, has now brought me the me doing Frost action figure. So it's a wig, it's like the whole outfit, the hoodie.
I can't
shoes.
even. Does he sell these?
He should. I think he did. I think he sold a bunch of the Hunter ones because people kept hitting him up. But it's me as Frost, and like this almost made me start crying. He made a filing cabinet.
That's like a filing cabinet. The kindest, most funny, weird, special gift ever.
Most like a kind stalker.
Yeah.
Look, if this would weird out most people, but look, it's a bag of hands and feet. And a leather jacket for when I just want to be me. And all these files say like different things on them, like comedy dabbling, which is an inside joke. Chair instructions because I fell out of my old chair. This is insane. It's too much. He like has actual files in the filing cabinet.
I love it. What a cool gift.
Dick pics.
Oh.
Anyway, shout out to Andy Masterson.
I think we are done with chats, and that's great because I got to take a bathroom break. So, Chrissie, thank you for hanging out today. And
thank you for having me. I was really worried that we weren't going to have an intelligent conversation, but then Clifton came. So I was like, we're saved.
It was fine. Rock Lexicon. Haven't been able to catch a new show as much as I'd like, Keri, but I wanted to support. Love to Chrissie and Clifton as well. You're three great freedom-loving culture warriors. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Rock Lexicon. And thank you, Chrissie, for inviting me to Content House. I had so much fun.
You crushed it.
I met cool people, and that girl, Gigi, I'm going to have her on the show sometime. She was a sweetheart. I got stuck in Newark. She put me up, made me spaghetti.
Oh, my God. She's such a mom. She's like
such a mom.
She's like the den mother. Yeah, your flight got like all jacked up.
Yeah.
I feel bad you had such a problem.
Oh, it's fine. We got to play cards with her in-laws. We set up with the grandparents playing cards and eating spaghetti and meatballs.
God, that's so nice. She's
great. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely going to come to the next one because we're looking at spots in Texas.
Texas. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell people where they can find you.
Yes. Follow me on YouTube, my channel, Chrissie Mayr. I have a Chrissie Mayr podcast. I try to put out like 4 new episodes a week. The Wet Spot on Compound Media Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Check out my album live from January 6th on iTunes and Amazon. And I think that's it. I have new Rootin' for Putin shirts available. I can't remember the name of the website. Fuck. But I'll have to retweet it. And yeah, go to ChrissieMayr.com for dates. I'm going to be in Atlantic City, April 22nd and 23rd at the Claridge Hotel. They have a venue in there called the Celebrity Theater. So come to that. That'll be super fun. And then I'm headlining in Jersey at TIFF's on May 14th. And then there's more to come, more dates in the fall.
Cool. Thank you, lady. Have a nice weekend.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.